Welcome to Superhero Pow. I'm your host nerd, Tom Fremkin. Hey, how's it going? Thought we'd talk about cartoons today. More specifically, why don't they make cartoons of movies anymore? You know, that used to be a big thing. I was kind of looking at some old cartoons. Going to do one of my cartoon award videos again. One of the cartoons was Dr. Dolittle. It was loosely based on the famous movie with Rex Harrison, Dr. Dolittle. For all you youngins out there, Robert Downey Jr. wasn't the first person to play Dr. Dolittle. In fact, I don't even think Rex Harris was. But the cartoon show made for Saturday morning was relatively based off Rex Harrison's portrayal of the character. But pretty much since the dawn of Saturday morning cartoons, they've been making cartoons based off movies, even though a lot of those movies were based off books. Filmation had their Journey to the Center of the Earth and Fantastic Voyage. I think based off sitcoms was always the weirdest thing to me. The Happy Days and Laverne and Shirley and Mork and Mindy. One that I can understand more, maybe because I do Superhero Pow, would be the Star Trek cartoon. Always wished they made a Star Wars cartoon. I mean, now they're finally making them, but you know, back in the day, there was droids and Ewoks, and I don't know. I wanted to see more dogfights. But over the past 20 years or so, it's like it just stopped. Networks and studios just stopped making movies. Or rather, networks and studios just stopped making cartoons based off of movies. The last one I can think of, I think it was on Fox, was Napoleon Dynamite cartoon. Which, as a fan of the movie, I thought the cartoon was terrible because they had plots and things going on that wouldn't happen in Napoleon Dynamite. It was just kind of like, you know, once they made it a cartoon, it was like, oh, well, we have to make it a cartoon. We got to stick some Warner Brother Looney Tunes elements into it, do crazy, fantastic things. And it's like, no, that's not Napoleon Hill. I even feel like Kevin Smith did that a little bit with his Clerks cartoon show. You know, things got extra wacky and weird, and it was like, the reason we like Clerks, it's because it's just these two guys hanging out at a store. The reason we liked Napoleon Dynamite was because it was just this weird guy going to school. You don't have to make it a cartoon show like the 1970s where there's a talking dog. To a certain degree, I'd say the golden age for cartoon movies was, or I think I said that backwards. To me, the golden age for, movies being turned into cartoons was Sony and Sony Animation. They would come out with a big blockbuster movie, Men in Black, Godzilla, Jumanji, and then they would follow it up with a cartoon show. And invariably, the cartoon shows were all pretty good. So yeah, it's just weird that they've just kind of stopped doing that. I feel like there's probably two reasons why they've stopped doing that. One, I don't think there's a heck of a lot of original movies being made anymore. And this is not to say Godzilla is an original movie that they made a cartoon show off of. But, Men in Black was a brand new franchise, so to speak. Jumanji was a brand new franchise. Now all we're getting is rehashed franchise movies. We're getting Ghostbusters movies, Jurassic Park movies, Star Trek movies, Star Wars movies. They're even working on more Blade Runner movies. Of course, all the superheroes. So, where are the Independent Days and Men in Black? For whatever reasons, those movies aren't really getting made anymore. And to a degree, I guess, when they make movies like that, they just don't do as well at the box office anymore. Seems like everybody's being pre-programmed into franchises. And if the franchise doesn't already exist, then it's kind of hard to start a new one. Suppose one new franchise that's trying to start is the Rebel Moon. But I'll admit I haven't seen it myself, but seeing the reviews of it, it seems like the overall consensus of Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon is it's a movie. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe that gets turned into a cartoon. I'm sure Zack and Netflix would love it. But for cartoons based on movies, it's kind of like we're just getting all the franchises, I've said, to a certain degree. We got the superhero cartoons. We've got Jurassic Park cartoons. We have tons of Star Wars cartoons. We're getting Star Trek cartoons as well. It's just all the same stuff. So I think that is really, if you exclude all that content, that's what's kind of preventing cartoons being based on movies anymore. And I think it's kind of sad because there usually is some fun movies and you'd like to see them explored more. Now, obviously, the quality of these cartoons ranges. I mean, they did an Evolutions cartoon. I know you remember that movie with David Duchovny. The cartoon was about as good as the movie. They did a Stargate cartoon. I never watched all of it, but it was kind of weird. Kids of the 80s, of course, will remember the Rambo cartoon. That was a really strange one to make. And then kids of the 90s might remember that they did a Highlander cartoon. A cartoon about people chopping their heads off. I just would have loved to have been in the pitch meeting about that. Obviously, the cartoon didn't have any head chopping off, and it was kind of a weird show anyway. The other thing that makes me feel like that these cartoons aren't getting made anymore is because the networks, and I include streaming channels in this term, networks, have to own everything. Back in the day when Hanna-Barbera or Filmation would make a cartoon for Saturday morning, they basically owned the cartoon show, assuming it wasn't some sort of deal. I know a lot of times Fred Silverman, through CBS, would get the rights to something, and then they would have Filmation make a cartoon out of it. But any of Filmation's original works or Hanna-Barbera's original works, they would own themselves. The network wouldn't own them. The studios owned them. Well, those days are long over. The networks now want to own everything. And I think it makes them gun-shy about greenlighting a cartoon show that they don't own the concept of. I mean, heck, even Nickelodeon opened up their wallet and bought the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Peter Laird had sold Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles to Nickelodeon after they were paying him licensing fees for, over a decade or more. And Peter had bought out Kevin Eastman years ago. The Disney Channel and Disney Plus just pretty much makes and shows cartoons that they own. Same thing with Netflix and Max and Paramount and, Nickelodeon. Nickelodeon is Paramount, I guess I said that twice. Netflix, I think, is a little bit of an outlier right now still. I think they're still kind of more of a catch-all. So I think cartoons that they don't outright own can still get on their streaming channel. And on some level, this all goes back to, George Lucas. George Lucas got ownership of Star Wars and made more money than Hollywood would prefer a single person to ever make. So Hollywood is all about keeping all the rights for themselves today, which isn't good on a lot of reasons, I think. But yeah, until, studios or viewer appetites are more attuned to, non-established franchise films, networks are willing to air shows that they don't completely own the concept to, maybe we'll get some more cartoons based on movies. I suppose this isn't something to really lament. What do you think? Do you think this is terrible that we don't have any more cartoons based off movies? I kind of feel like if the movie was cool and the cartoon was cool, it's a win for everybody. But either way, it's just kind of weird how something that used to be so prevalent doesn't really happen anymore. Not accounting for the Jurassic Park cartoons, the Star Wars cartoons, the Star Trek cartoons, and all the superhero cartoons. But what do you think? You'd like to see some more cartoon shows based on movies that were not Star Wars, Superman, Star Trek, and what did I say a moment ago? And Jurassic Park? I know I myself am getting really tired of the Jurassic Park franchise. I would love to see a dinosaur movie that was not connected to Jurassic Park. But anyway, what do you think about the cartoons? Or do you think cartoon shows should just lean more into more original concepts and stop being adaptations of things? I don't have all the answers, but, thanks for listening and watching. And as always, if you could be so kind to like and subscribe, and I suppose notify, well, I'll make more of these things. Till then, take care of yourself.